Hello, dear friends. My name is Sofya Dorinskaya. I am a doctor, head of the Medical Information Center. At the Health Information Center, we test for nutritional deficiencies using a unique method developed by me and the authors, which identifies nutritional deficiencies based on their manifestations. This is the only reliable method that can demonstrate and identify nutritional deficiencies. Unfortunately, blood tests cannot do this. Also, as you know, I run this blog, Evidence Based Medicine, and today I want to answer some questions that have come to the channel. So, Elena Magomedova asks, I'm curious, how does the body cope when following a vegan diet? In India, this practice has existed for centuries. No, the body does not cope at all, dear Elena. The human body belongs to the class of omnivorous organisms. The human gastrointestinal tract, the entire system for absorbing nutrients in humans. This system has been specifically engineered so that the human body can most efficiently absorb essential nutrients, focusing primarily on protein, which is the main nutrient, sourced from meat. Within the complex systems of the human body, the essential biochemical reaction involves the intricate transformation of ingested foreign protein, followed by its systematic breakdown into individual amino acids for cellular use. And from the resulting amino acids, the body assembles its own protein molecules. This is the essence of metabolic processes in the body. The assembled protein molecules are incorporated into the necessary cell, in the necessary organ, in the necessary place. And in this way, they ensure the exchange, the constant renewal of cells in the body. This, in principle, is the essence of life itself, of maintaining life in the body. Vegans are people who artificially refuse to eat meat. What does it mean, artificially? It means that a person changes their dietary concept under the influence of an idea. A cat, for example, cannot change its physiology, well, just like a human, right? But a cat cannot become a vegan. It will simply die if you start feeding it carrots, peas, and so on. Of course, there are cats that like, I don't know, fresh cucumber, right? I had such a cat. Absolutely wonderful. But still, cucumber is not its main food. But you still have to give it as much meat as it needs. You see? A human, since he can reason, since he is a thinking being, can, under the influence of different ideas, change something. But a person cannot change the physiology of their body. When some people, well, there were comments like this too, say, but look at a cow, it eats grass, and look at it, how it is. A cow is a different type of organism. A cow is a different type of organism. The organism of herbivores is made in such a way by nature, by God, I don't know, maybe aliens sent them, I have no idea. However, when we look at the complex organism of herbivores, we find that their internal biochemistry is designed so that they can consume plant food and transform it within their bodies into the vital nutrients they need to survive. So that from this plant food, their bodies create animal protein. Do you understand? But within the human body's internal systems, since humans are naturally omnivores, our bodies are fully capable of obtaining a sufficient amount of protein from various plant-based foods. The problem is that, first of all, plants are very poor in this regard. And secondly, this protein is hard for the human body to access. It is hard to access simply because the human body is a different type of organism. And when a person, under the influence of a specific idea, attempts to transition their daily nutritional intake to a cow's diet, thinking that they can actually survive and live just as well as a cow, they are certainly in for some very serious and dangerous trouble. The body cannot absorb the necessary amount of protein, and this whole chain, protein to amino acid to one's own protein, simply doesn't work. Naturally, what happens is that the body's own cells break down, they are destroyed, which is a natural process. Cell turnover always occurs, but the incorporation of the necessary substances, the required protein molecules, does not happen. That is why, after some time, vegans develop extremely serious illnesses. Extremely serious illnesses. Vegans die much earlier compared to everyone else. Vegans have no strength. At first, they become aggressive, like all hungry people. Then they fall into apathy. This is already such a... Or, for example, someone writes to me, I'm a vegan, I've become calmer. There is nothing good about this. It means that you have gone through the period of, so to speak, hungry rage, and now you are going down the scale of vitality, declining, already entering a kind of pre-death state. There is nothing positive about this. Veganism does not calm you down, you understand? And you can't change physiology anyway. When a person is hungry, the sympathetic nervous system is active. A person lives on adrenaline. And this is where rage, aggression, irritability, and quick-temperedness come in, often, without any real reason. But above and below this, the parasympathetic system is at work. When a person is in their right mind, when everything is good, when they're well-fed, well-rested, and everything is wonderful, the parasympathetic system is at work. And what does that mean? It means that all the processes in the body are balanced, sleep is good, everything happens in cycles as it should, and nothing hurts. And in a near-death state, the parasympathetic system is also at work. And very often people simply confuse the activity of the parasympathetic system in a near-death state. The parasympathetic system in a near-death state and the parasympathetic system that is active when a person is living very well are often confused. That's all there is to it. And if you also don't eat, that is, as I said, meat, then you start to become calm and you just don't care about anything. And by the way, in this near-death parasympathetic state, nothing hurts. That is, if you ask the person, nothing hurts. But if you look at the test results, you'll be shocked. It's exactly in this state that a person comes in when something is wrong, something seems off, and then it turns out to be stage 4 cancer. Where did it come from? Since nothing hurt? That's it. That's exactly that lowest level of functioning. The parasympathetic system is at the bottom. That's why they can't cope at all. They die. They die at a young age. And not all of them are vegans. Rich people there eat meat, and plenty of it. They really do eat it. Those are just fairy tales for the poor to make there be fewer of them. Population reduction. That's all there is to it. It doesn't work at all. Because you can't whisper your way around physiology, you understand? You can't change physiology. Alright. Valerie Zuza asks, I would like to know your opinion on the recommended salt intake. There are actually tables of recommended norms, which are calculated for minimal consumption. But salt is a special thing. Salt is a very important thing, first of all. Secondly, to be honest, the norm is like the average temperature in a hospital. If you live in cold conditions, you'll have to consume more salt. Because salt retains water in the body, and in this way, the body stays warm. That's why people in cold climates eat more salt. If you live in a hot climate, you also need to consume an increased amount of salt because you sweat more actively. And the body loses minerals through sweat, including salt. So you also need to consume more salt to eat. If you're lucky enough to live in a place with a constant temperature, well, just eat as much as tastes good to you, so that it tastes good to you. So a sign that you've eaten too much salt, but right now I'm only talking about salt, you understand, not about any other pathological processes. If you suddenly start to get swelling or something like that, well, just take a potassium tablet, yes? Or just use less salt and take a potassium tablet. And that's it, your excess salt will be balanced out. I don't see this as any kind of huge problem. I've never thought about the recommended amount of salt intake. It's all based on how you feel. If you went for a run somewhere, or if you worked hard in the garden or at the gym, you sweated a lot, went to the sauna and came out, and you have a really bad headache. That means you need to eat a couple of pickles because you've lost salt, because your tissues have started to swell, edema of the brain. Well, not a severe one, just a slight swelling, and that's why you have a headache. You've lost salt, so you need more salt, you need to eat some. All these salt consumption norms, you see, they're calculated in some economic way so that it sits on the shelves so they can figure out how many bags of salt to stock in the store. But really, well, just salt your food as usual, and that's basically it. So, Natalia Dick asks, please tell me, is it possible to take nicotinic acid in ampoules orally? Yes, you can, but you need to take it by mouth. Vitamin injections are a medical procedure. And to be honest, I don't recommend it. Taking vitamins or giving yourself injections without a specific medical regimen is not advisable. Why? Because vitamins need to pass through the gastrointestinal tract. Absolutely all vitamins must be absorbed in the right place in the gastrointestinal tract. With the bloodstream, they need to be, so to speak, activated in the liver. They need to bind with the necessary minerals. The bloodstream must deliver them to the right place. You are not, after all, well, not just you, but we together are not some kind of flask, right, where something is just poured in. That's already a resuscitation situation when an intensive care doctor is watching, adding something here, a milliliter there, putting in an IV here, and giving a bit of adrenaline there. We'll add some to support the heart. Those are already resuscitation measures. When we talk about, so to speak, ordinary life, regular life, normal life, we mean that the body should receive all nutrients through the mouth. After all, it's no secret that even when we're talking about a sick person, there's always a choice, for example, if they need to increase their blood volume. And we always check whether the person can drink, whether they can take in the required amount through the mouth, because the best absorption happens through the mouth. And if for some reason this is impossible, for example, if the person is unconscious, then they start getting an IV. And again, that's a resuscitation measure. If we're talking about people who are conscious, if you can take vitamins, then you should always take them through the mouth. The form, yes, that's fine. As for ampule form, I don't see much of an issue with it. The only thing is, please always draw the substance from the ampule using a fine needle so that when you break the ampule, that little piece of glass doesn't get in. God forbid you end up swallowing it. So you draw it up through a fine needle, and with this pure solution, you can be sure that no glass has gotten in. You release it into a glass, you can dilute it with some water if you like and drink it, if that's not unpleasant for you. So there you go, please take it this way. I've answered several questions. Thank you very much. Please subscribe to the channel. Let me remind you that when we reach 500,000 subscribers, we will be giving away 3 sets of books, wonderful books by Professors Lepsky. These are medical knowledge that has been lost to us today, which we managed to find. We have restored these books for publication. And when we reach 500,000 on the channel, there will be a giveaway of 3 sets of books, please. I will be very happy to have new subscribers. If you have any personal issues, if you have taken vitamins based on recommendations and something isn't working, or if you have any questions, please write to us through the Dorinskaya.com website, exactly at Dorinskaya.com, either using the contact form on the site or directly via email. That is where I communicate about personal matters, which are impossible to discuss in the comments. Certain personal situations shouldn't be discussed publicly. It's not right, especially when we're talking about someone's health. And if something isn't working out, then you need to take a deficiency test, as I always say, because it's impossible to determine these things with any tests, neither hair nor blood tests. In reality, the only way to determine which deficiencies you have is by observing the symptoms. This is exactly what our practice demonstrates. No one, I state this with absolute certainty, no one who deals with eliminating vitamin deficiencies can, for example, restore the function of an endocrine gland or reliably help people stop taking antidepressants or antipsychotics. Why? Because in order to do these things, you need to know exactly how to address nutrient deficiencies. Because the root of all problems is deficiencies. and only by observing the symptoms, only through competent interpretation. We never have tests evaluated by any programs, because there are nuances, you see. Only a person, only I, can observe and notice these changes. And only these kinds of things truly allow you to pull a person out of this deep abyss of deficiencies, so to speak. I want to remind you that nutrient deficiencies, or avitaminosis as they're also called, are deadly conditions that inevitably lead to death. They can last a very long time, but the outcome is always the same. Sometimes the end comes quickly. Thank you very much for your attention. All the best. Goodbye.